I'd like to talk this morning about the harvest of faithfulness. What sort of harvest can we rightfully expect as we remain faithful? Well, Paul tells us that there is, first of all, this harvest of eternal life, of course. Elsewhere in his letter to the churches of Galatia, Paul emphasizes that those who are faithful to the purposes of God will certainly reap rewards in heaven that will make even the most painful hoeing of this time, so to speak, seem well worth the investment. For those who choose to focus on the here and now, there's also the harvest of personal integrity. It's the blessing of knowing beyond a shadow of doubt that no matter how the external world around you shakes or decays, you are internally sound. You've walked your talk, so to speak. You've kept your promises. You've done the right thing as best you could. You have mirrored in your life the absolute consistency of care and commitment that God has shown to us. We could use more people of integrity like that in this day and time. And then, of course, the harvest of human impact, which the faithful will surely cause here, if faithful, but may not get to see fully in our lifetimes. I'm reminded in this regard to the story of Clarence Jordan. Perhaps you've heard of him. He was a man of remarkable ability with doctorates in both agriculture and biblical languages and the potential to really do almost anything. Clarence Jordan chose to serve the poor. During the 1940s, he founded a farm in Americus, Georgia that became a haven of hope for poor whites and blacks struggling to survive in the wake of the Depression. As you might imagine, an institution like his, Koinonia Farm, it didn't go over very big in the deep south of the 1940s. Over the course of 14 years, the folks in this neighborhood opposed him, boycotted him, slashing the tires of farm members and threatening even worse. Finally, in 1954, the KKK decided that they had had enough of Clarence Jordan. So in the middle of the night, many of them church members, they came hooded to the farm and set afire every one of its buildings, riddled Jordan's home with bullets, and chased off every family on the farm except for one. And the next day, a newspaper reporter came out from town to see what remained of the farm, and walking through the smoldering rubble, he found Clarence in the field, hoeing and planting. "I heard the awful news," he called to Clarence, "and I came out to do a story on the tragedy of your farm closing." Well, Clarence recognized the voice of the reporter as one of the hooded figures who had been there the night before. Clarence just kept on hoeing, kept on planting. Determined to get a rise out of this man, the reporter continued prodding and poking till he could contain himself no longer. And in an arrogant voice that betrayed his identity, the reporter blurted out, "Well, Dr. Jordan, you got 2 of them PhDs and you've put 14 years into this farm and there's nothing left of it at all. Tell me, Doc, just how successful do you think you've been in the end?" Finally, Clarence stopped hoeing, straightened his back, turned toward the reporter, and with a gaze that could have melted ice, he said quietly but firmly, "I think we've been about as successful as the cross, sir." You see, I don't mind that you really never understood us. What we're about around here is not success, it's faithfulness. We're staying. Have a good day. I think of the thousands of people since that day whose lives have been touched by the ongoing ministry of Koinonia Farm, and the Christian vision of a man who refused to give up when the results were not what he had hoped for. whether it's in farming or marriage, parenthood or church ministry, anywhere else. One philosopher summed up the truth this way: the essential thing in heaven and earth is that there should be a long obedience in the same direction. Thereby results, and has always resulted, in something which makes life worth living. Where does a person like Clarence Jordan, or anyone else for that matter, get the strength to persevere in doing good when the results seem so dubious, the weariness sets in? I really wonder that. We all do at times. And then I remember the figure of a man walking day after day through clamoring crowds, healing and teaching those who hardly appreciated the gift they had been given, standing silent before a stacked jury, clenching his teeth at the lash of the whip, gazing from across at a jeering world gone mad. And I know how easy it would have been for Jesus to give it all up, to figure the human race was not worth his time, that the harvest would never come. So today, I hope you will choose to be thankful for Jesus' long obedience to God's gracious purpose. And I ask myself for God's power to face the challenges of this day, this week, with a long obedience too. Stay safe, stay well, stay connected to God and one another, and stay faithful. Blessings.